is the firewall. Before we get into the bigger picture, of which the ongoing rioting in Ferguson, Missouri is merely a symptom, let's just be crystal clear about something. If it turns out that a police officer shot Michael Brown as he was standing still, his hands in the air, as his defenders claim, then that police officer needs to be charged with murder and he needs to go to jail for the rest of his life. But that doesn't seem like what happened at all. This story is still unfolding and new details are being revealed every day. I'm not going to speculate on how Michael Brown's life actually came to an end, but I am going to talk about what happened before and after. Michael Brown has been repeatedly referred to in the media as a gentle giant. Now, here's surveillance video of the gentle giant taken a short time before the shooting, stealing a handful of cigars and then gently strong-arming the store owner out of his way. So why is it that the Attorney General, appointed by the President of the United States of America, put intense political pressure on the Ferguson Police Department to suppress this standard, ordinary surveillance video, a video which, by the way, caused the destruction of this man's store and left him fearing for his life? Well, we'll get to that in a moment. Defenders of Michael Brown say that this is an attempt to criminalize him and therefore deflect attention from the police shooting. Really? That kind of casual violence, that sense of entitlement, that utter disrespect for the law or another human being, don't take my word for it, the evidence is right there in front of your eyes. That attitude has nothing to do with the police claim that he was charging the officer when he was shot. This doesn't shed some doubt on the story of a gentle, innocent, unarmed black teen assassinated by the police while his hands were in the air for the crime of being black. Look, let's cut to the chase here. Spokesmen for the protesters rioting in Ferguson and St. Louis, and in fact a large percentage of the general population, claim that there's an epidemic of white-on-black crime, of white cops shooting unarmed black teens. Is that, in fact, happening? Well, according to the FBI, there were 408,217 robberies in 2009. That's about 1,100 a day, or in round numbers, about once a minute, 24 hours a day. That means 1,000 times a day, the police are called 1,000 times a day, arrests are made, or in general terms, the events leading up to the shots being fired in Ferguson, Missouri happen about 1,000 times per day. So, if there's this epidemic of white policemen executing innocent black males, why do we only hear about a case like this once every few years or so? And why do most of these cases, like this one, seem to end up with extenuating circumstances? And why do the few cases that don't have extenuating circumstances end up with the offending officers in jail? If this is an epidemic, where's the epidemic? 30,000 commercial flights land safely each day in America, and they don't make the news either. So, is there an epidemic of racial violence loose in America today? There is. According to the National Crime Victimization Survey, in 2010, 62,593 blacks were the victims of white violence. During that same year, 320,082 whites were the victims of black violence. That's 5 times as many violent attacks, but that number is misleading, since the black and white populations are not the same size. When 38 million black Americans commit 5 times as many violent crimes on 197 million whites as they receive, what you discover is that black perpetrators violently assault white victims 25 times more frequently. And when it comes to a specific kind of violent crime, aggravated assault, the number of black on white crimes is 200 times higher than white on black crimes. Oh, there's an epidemic of racial violence in America, all right. Reporter and author Colin Flaherty has taken a cold, clear-eyed view of the statistics that don't make the news because they're suppressed by the news. He reports, for example, again in 2010, the National Crime Victimization Survey reported approximately 13,000 black-on-white rapes and 39,000 black-on-white robberies, both violent crimes. The statistics show that the number of white-on-black rapes and violent robberies were so small that they had to be rounded to the nearest whole number, and that whole number was 0. Now, of course, critics will say that I'm using these statistics to justify the murder of Michael Brown, but I said at the beginning, if Michael Brown were shot in cold blood, then the police officer needs to pay the price for that murder. This has nothing to do with Michael Brown. This has everything to do with the narrative that the president, the attorney general, and all of these race hustlers are trying to create using Michael Brown. Because there is, in fact, a racial war of violence and hatred in America, open racism is simply not tolerated in white America today, but black racism is the toxic glue that holds the progressive coalition together. Tolerance of, in fact, as we see from the events in Ferguson, open encouragement of black rage at a narrative that not only does